With that, any other final questions that we have?
Well, I will start this section by saying thank you. That was phenomenal. I know this stuff, and I've got 2 pages of notes here. So that was brilliant. Some of the comments that have been coming through, some minds are blown, definitely. I will get to some questions in a minute. One thing I've taken away from this, my one thing was definitely around the content UTMs, but also just emphasizing the QAA thing. And I was actually talking to a new team member here yesterday, just doing a big overview around Google Ads and just introducing her to Google Ads and breaking down the various areas. The way you teach this is actually going to change the way I teach how to do Google Ads internally, because I'm going to start with that QAA thing. So I'm going to start with a very selfish question for me. Do you have a list of questions that you give either to team members or to clients, questions to ask of your data, which is, I guess, another way of looking at like your top 10 reports or top 20 reports in GA. But do you have a list published anywhere of questions that you ask of data?
I don't. And it's not because they're not some of the same questions. It's because of the style that we do things, which is training people. And if I give a list of questions, people skip everything else.
Right. Okay.
And so what we do is I'll tell you the same thing I tell them, which is, okay, that's a great question. And here's what I want to do. I want to train you to come up with your own questions. You're really going to just ask yourself, it's all going to be from 2 key questions to start with. I'm going to give you the 2 starter questions. Everything else comes from there. 1, what results do I want? Right? So you focus on your results and, okay, well, I want to know how many widgets I sold. I want to know, well, I have 7 products. I want to know by product name. I want to know, well, I've got 3 different versions of each product. So I want to know by that. And you sort of just kind of, peel it off like onion layers. Then it's, how am I achieving those results? So the questions are only going to be around one of those 2 things primarily. It's either what the result that I'm getting and how am I achieving that result? And that's where traffic sources come in. Maybe you have a question like, and again, I think you should do a wish list of questions, and not everything will you be able to get answers to immediately, because your setup might not be able to give you the answers yet. So as an example to that, you might want to know, like, okay, well, is Google Ads worth it? Right? Simple question. I just want to prove that Google Ads will give me results. It's like, okay, cool. Then we need to measure Google Ads. We need to know that analytics needs to know what a Google ad is as a traffic source. And then we need to know what result we're looking for. So by result, what do you mean? Well, I want to know, sales. And okay, cool. Then eventually, as you prove that out, you might say, yeah, but actually we've got 4 different groups that we're targeting. Which group would be the best from like an avatar perspective? We have 4 different avatars we're targeting. Which one is the best one for us to buy? And which one turns into money within 90 days? And then you can start going down these more advanced questions, and then your implementation becomes more advanced to answer those. Because in the beginning, it just can't answer that, because nobody's can. But then you start leveling up the measurement, and you start going things like, well, I can't tell if it was a sale within 90 days. So we got to make sure we're trying. Google Analytics doesn't know what we mean by, social media buyers as an avatar. So we got to tag that in somehow, and then start improving your implementation to answer those questions. But it'll always be around those 2. And then what happens is going through Kia, the question, the information, in the action step, you will hear, and you'll hear your people doing this as well when you train, you'll hear them mention things. So they'll say things like, oh yeah, we want to know if Google Ads is working or not. Cool. So I need to know information I need to know. Google Ads and then the result. So the sales. Perfect. And then then you say, okay, what information, what actions would you take now based upon that information? They say, well, in this report, let's say the report showed Google Ads and it showed sales of bicycles that we're trying to sell. And you go, well, hang on, you didn't put that in your information. So now you also need to know the product. You're like, oh yeah, cool, I need to have the product, And so all of a sudden the action starts adding into things, and they start going, well, actually, which bicycle? Like we have 3 different, oh yeah, so I need to know. And then you start going, well, actually, we have ads that target kids and ads that target adults. And you're like, well, yeah, see? And all of a sudden they're like, and that's what the questions become a non-issue pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? You naturally start asking those. But the starter questions are always going to be those 2. So
nice. Herman wants to know, if you delete a view, can you get it back?
Yes, you can. Hopefully that's not because just now he was like, hey, hypothetically, that's how you should have started that. Hypothetically, if you happen to do
for a friend.
Asking for a friend, exactly. I had this really awesome view that I accidentally moved. So 2 things you can do with the views. You can copy them, which actually copies the filters, the goals, everything exactly as it's set up, the e-commerce settings, everything. So it's kind of a cool way to do that. But you can also move it to a trash can. So when you move it to the trash can, it shows up here. This is where it lasts for 30 days. So for 30 days, you can use this. If it's past 30 days, unfortunately, it is at that point trashed. Now, I will walk you through some stages, especially as an agency, because I'm going to try you to avoid freak out. The second that I go here and I delete and I move this to the trash can, Google Analytics will go to the users, everybody that's here, and it will send out an email to everybody. And then it says, hey, Chris Mercer just moved this view to be deleted permanently. It's going to be gone in 30 days. And they make it like a crazy email. It looks super important. And like let's say you're the new agency on the block and you deleted the client's view, and they will flip out because they won't see that you can get it back in 30 days. They'll just be like, oh my God, you're back there deleting stuff. What's going on? Data, right? Everyone wants to keep data forever. So what you do before you delete is you rename the view. You say, this is okay to trash.
Good.
And then it says, hey, Mercer just deleted, this is okay to trash, test view only. And then everybody goes, they see that, they go, okay, that's fine. It's okay to trash. It's a test view only, and it changed. And just doing that, all of a sudden blood pressure goes back to normal. Nobody cares. But if you delete like a main view that's sort of named in an official way, even if it's a duplicate or something like that, freaks people out. So a little pro tip.
That's good. I get those emails all the time because I'm still linked to hundreds and hundreds of GA accounts that we have nothing to do with anymore. But that's a really cool tip. So Herman says, thank you. Jim says, can you just very quickly just talk about accounts, properties, and you've talked a lot about views, when to use. I think really what he's getting at is when would you use more than one property?
Great question. So I think for the most part, the word that comes to my mind, and of course we just do a lot of training, so here's why we did it, but I would say rarely would you use more than one property. Here's the reason. So in the account, right, which is the main level, doesn't really mean anything when you're giving out IDs. It's not accounts, it's always properties, right? So this is pretty much what most people are worried about. Now, the problem with property is when you go to create one, it's kind of in the creation, they're like, oh, what's your website name? Which insinuates if you have 4 different websites that they each should have their own property, right? It sort of just implies that. So you're like, okay, so that's why this has happened, where people have all these different fractional properties. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. Think about a property as a bucket, right? Each property is just a separate bucket. None of the buckets can talk to each other, right? They're all siloed. Right? They all have their own little data, and that's it. And you cannot ask one bucket what's going on and then communicate with another bucket. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing. So properties are all individual buckets. So if I have a website, which let's say in my case, Seriously Simple Marketing is a sister site for us. So Seriously Simple Marketing, and I've got measurementmarketing.io. So Seriously Simple Marketing sends traffic to measurementmarketing.io. And it does that because it's got a ton of SEO traffic, and I don't really use it anymore. And I just piped over traffic to us. That's really it. I do not, for example, send Google Ads traffic or Facebook traffic to Seriously Simple Marketing with the express purpose of having that traffic come to measurementmarketing.io so they will eventually buy. If I did, I would want to know if my Facebook traffic was working or if my Google Ads traffic was working. The only way that I would know that the Seriously Simple Marketing traffic, the original traffic sources of Facebook and Google Ads, and sort of ended up what caused the purchase on the measurementmarketing.io side, is if they were all in the same bucket. So in that case, I would put them both in the same property. And that's how I would sign that. So all the UA and all the IDs would go into the same property. For me, I created a demo account, right? Because we do a lot of training. So measurementmarketing.io demo. And so we have a demo account. We do a lot of stuff. I don't want all my demo stuff coming into the same bucket as the 2019, the actual production stuff. So I didn't want any of that. So I made sure I created a completely separate property, completely separate siloed bucket of data where the two things couldn't pollute each other. And so that's why I did that. And of course, a bunch of examples, but that's how to think about it. So if the sites that you're tracking are designed in the same, and this is, I think, the key point, in the same session, if the customer is supposed to go from site A to site B, and they're designed to make a conversion between those two, and your question will be what ultimately caused them to start that session in the first place, right, which started on the other domain, then they both have to be in the same property. But if they're not, like in my case with Seriously Simple Marketing, they is an entirely different company. So it gets its own account. It's in its own little thing. I didn't even put it under the Measurement Marketing IO account because it's not at all the same company. It's a completely separate thing, and I don't really care. I treat it like an affiliate site, like a third party affiliate that was sending us traffic, right? So I don't have to keep it under property. And that's why I made that decision, because I don't care about the original traffic source of how they got to Seriously Simple Marketing to ultimately purchase from me, because it's not a thing that I do from a marketing standpoint. If I ever change that, then I would adjust my implementation, but I don't have any plans to do that. So hopefully that answers that. But that's kind of what you look, how is the system designed to be worked? And if there is crisscross in between that happens in a session, then if you want to ask questions between that crisscross, you got to have them all in the same bucket.
Big thank you. Herman's got another question. He said he's set up 3 clients as properties. Now, I would say, I'm going to get your input in a second. I would say I would tend to set those up as 3 separate accounts, and have each one be completely separate, because eventually you might want to give the client access to those. How would I presume you do it the same way rather than 3 properties?
You could. I personally like that because it's just easier. Right. So you can do an account, you can have up to 100 accounts. And then you can do, user management. Then you just add them as the admin, then you remove yourself and done. Super simple. Doing it as property, you can move the property later. So you can come up here to move. So when you go into the property, go to property settings, then you can move the property. And then you can say, okay, I want to move it to this other account. Like there's my Simple Marketing account. So I can say, move it there. I want to keep this, or I just want to replace it in existing changes, and then, move it over to them. So that's another way to do it. But I've personally always done it through the account level. Doesn't mean that this is a bad way to do it. It's just a different way to do it. But instead of moving a property later, I just like, because what if I created, if I needed to create a third property for them, I don't want to, I didn't want to have 700 properties back here, because there's only a limited number of properties you can, that I want to play with, but accounts are easier for me to manage.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a yes or no. It's a technically an either or.
Yeah. It was advice from Google apparently to do it that way, but yeah, it still works. It's just, I find it.
That's what I mean. And remember, take advice from Google with some grain of salt, because they're not in here. Some of them they're not necessarily analytics experts, right? They might be Google Ads experts who know a thing or two about analytics, but not, they're not doing it.
Well, they might be a third-party contractor that just started last week.
Entirely possible.
Who knows?
Yeah. There's lots of different things out there. And it's, again, at the end of the day, does it achieve the result you need to achieve? And great, do it.
Question from Luke. What information is needed to pull the results of unique conversions in Google Data Studio? I'm trying to present the results of each conversion as a scorecard. That question makes sense.
Okay. I'm going to give you a huge bonus, way beyond the scope of our training, but it's because I like you, Mike. I'm going to answer this question.
I'm rubbing my hands together.
All right. So this is how to figure out conversion rates in Data Studio. So I'm going to go into this report. Okay. So let's pull up, edit this real quick. I'm going to connect it into a data source. Let's make sure what data source we have here.
I saw a Data Studio report that Mercer did for a joint client that we had a couple of years ago. And my jaw hit the floor when I saw some of the stuff in there. It changed the way we basically did Data Studio from that point. You know this product inside out, do some cool things.
Hang on just one second. I literally answered this question for one of our students earlier. So I'm going to see if I can pull that one up. Boom. Okay. This is it. All right. So we have views and we have dollars in this case, because I was just trying to do something easy. So this was the number of page views, dollars. I wanted to know dollars per view. Okay, to figure that out. So this is the same exact method I'm about to show you. Will go through conversion rates. So the trick to doing conversion rates in your reports, and I'm gonna rebuild this whole thing from scratch so you can see how I did it. So I'm gonna go to chart, scorecard. There's my first scorecard. I'm gonna literally just copy and paste into my other things. So now I'm just doing page views. Now the trick to doing conversion rates is you need to do a segment. So in Google Analytics, determine a segment of, let's say this was landing pages. So, and you just, at this point, we're just changing the name of it from a label perspective. So it's like landing pages. And then this might be your, in Google Analytics, you can create a segment, right? Something called a sequence that says, show me people who saw the landing page and then saw the cart page, right? Is followed by the cart page is how you do in analytics. And then that number would drop down, right? And then this would be, In this case, we'll just edit that, and this would be my cart pages, and that's how you would pull that out. In fact, I think I can actually do this if I pull this up. No, I can't. Sorry. I don't remember the name of them all. But that's how you do it. Pull up a segment and it'll say, great, this segment is now focused on landing pages, and this number will drop down to just the landing pages that you wanted based on the segment. This number will drop down to just the landing pages you want based on the cart page, right? So then what you do, and this is the secret sauce, you have to name them. So you have to name them. They were originally called page views, and you notice I named them like this, right? You have to name them with their segments, and then any filters you apply or anything else like that. And in this case, I'm going to switch this to revenue, just so I can show you the actual thing. So this is revenue. Oops. Yeah, we got revenue. Perfect. Okay. So now this is why I'm changing this to dollars. Okay. Have to name them.
Okay.
So landing pages, dollars. Okay. So I've just same metrics. So at this point to Data Studio, this is just a label change. It doesn't really mean anything. So now at this point, technically there's something called calculated fields in Google Data Studio where I can go to create a new field down here. And I can tell Google Data Studio, I want to know basically what we showed before, which was landing pages divided by dollars, right? So I go, great, show me, which in this case, like page views, you see all this like page views, number of page views, right? So I just want to know landing pages. So I would say, show me my landing pages, but I can't see, well, it's weird. Let me go ahead and type in dollars. I want it to show me my dollars, but I can't pull that up either because that's showing as revenue, right? Now it's fine if I just want page views or revenue and page views, but I don't. Remember these in our little fun example here, and this is how you're going to do it. Let me get out of this whole thing. These are segmented, right? Pretend there's segments on these. So that's why they're named uniquely. But at this point, it's just a label. So this is the magic. Click on both of these. Now you've selected both. Right click, blend the data. As soon as you do that, the Data Studio creates a new data source that is comprised of two things. Your new landing pages metric now, defined by however you segmented it, and your dollars metric now, defined however you segmented it. So now if you come in here, you see what I want to switch to different, this is all you have, just the two. But look what you can do. You can create a new field. So now you say, I want to be able to do dollars divided by landing pages. And I'm going to call that, my custom metric, whatever. So click apply, and then that is going to show a number, but you can obviously flip it to a dollar amount. And that's how you do that. So just make it a currency, and then you're off to the races. So in this case, but same thing for percentage or whatever else. So so this is the trick and this is the thing that is not intuitive at all.
No,
because you think, oh, I just created it. I don't know why, but you have to blend it. And when you blend it, Data Studio treats this as its own unique metric now. Before, it was treating it as page views that just happen to have a label of landing pages, or revenue, but it was just a label of dollars, but it was ignoring the dollars thing. It was just saying, oh, this is just revenue. And you can't say revenue of a certain product. It would just ignore it because it's just going to treat it as revenue. But when you do the blending, it blends them with however they were defined as a segment. And now you can actually figure out things like conversion rates. That's how we did stuff like this. Let me show you. So if I go back. So when we do funnel reports, and this is super useful. This is another reason to use Data Studio. But you can create, like, here's just a quick example of kind of like, here's the flow of how your funnel's working. And we say, like, here's the overall conversion rate. Here's the between conversion rates of all the different stages and steps. Very similar to the Google Analytics flow report, but clients like this stuff more. Plus, you can slice and dice by source medium and by device category, whatever else you want to do. There's lots of different ways to do this. But this is how you do it. So each one of these is a little scorecard that's built by saying it's this divided by that, and we just named it. So
beautiful.
That's how you do it. You have to blend data in Data Studio. There's your bonus tip.
That is a very cool bonus.
Data Studio is awesome. I absolutely recommend Data Studio because Google Analytics is good at reports, but it's not great at reports. Data Studio, totally great at reports. Clients love it. Easy to share. A whole other training.
Yeah, that is a very good reward to everybody that has stayed on for the whole 2 hours. And we have gone for 2 hours. That went quickly, but that was immensely useful, mate. Thank you very much.
No, happy to help, man.
For jumping on the call and sharing that with us. Superb.
Cool. Well, there's my information. So if you guys want more, like I said, I'm a horrible self-promoter. So I rely on the good graces of people like Mr. Mike Rhodes here to say like, no, seriously, you need to go buy his stuff. But there's out for all of that. So anybody interested in this training and wants to learn how to do this, whether you've got a team, individual, whatever, we've got something that'll fit for you for sure.
Oh yeah. If you try to train someone in a team, just don't even think about it. Just go there and get them through this stuff.
Let us do it for you.
Yep. Mate, superb. Thank you so much.
No, happy to help, man. This has been a pleasure. Thanks for everybody for hanging in there. Going through everything. Like I said, at least you picked up 1 or 2 new things. And
lots of amazing loans. And thank yous. So everyone is stoked. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate it.